Okay, let's go. All right. Hello, everybody. We are back online right now here. Picking up where we left off there a little bit ago, taking a bit of a small break just to stretch, get some lunch, the like. All right, so where we last left off, we were working on character backgrounds here. We have assigned all of our skill proficiencies and our convention here for characteristics, and mapped their frequency of appearance. We have identified all of the ASI quick build options and their frequency here for our positions. We have assigned origin HP to positions, as well as tool proficiency and their frequency of appearance, including creating 2 new tools so that we could have a nice round 15, but also to fully identify the different fantasies for the different positions here, that being the priest's supplies and the weapon master's kit. All right, so what comes next is we can work on novice abilities, we can work on adept abilities, we can come up with narrative personal equipment that each that each position would get. We can also take on we do not have kits yet implemented into this game fully here, so actually let's just go ahead and kind of put in a TBD placeholder text here for them. So there we go. I will go ahead and put kind of my gray bar ender there. So yeah, personal equipment, novice and adept abilities, or we can also start tackling cultures here, which should be on the rather easy side, especially since we're going to be working primarily off of our mental stats. So yeah, primarily language ability score is going to be tied to your intellect. However, I figure there are going to be a couple of options here that is going to be wisdom or charisma. So band of entertainers, their language ability is probably going to be tied to their charisma as they're traveling around and being, and wanting to make sure that their show is accessible to a wider audience here. So yeah, charisma. Outlaws, that's going to be intellect. Community in the mountains. I don't see any reason for this to be either wisdom or charisma, so it's just going to be intellect. Criminal enterprise. Intellect as well. Uh, Farming village. Yep, this is going to probably be intellect. Laborers union would be. Yeah, I think we can put this as wisdom. Land of ice and snow, so that's going to be kind of your mountains, your tundra features. Probably going to be also intellect. Mercenary company, intellect. Monastic order, definitely. Actually, that depends on kind of which sort of monastic order and narrative features that we're going to go with. If we go for kind of a classical medieval fantasy monastic order, where they are brain fart there, sorry, where a lot of the goals of the order are going to be on preservation of texts, translations, copies. That does seem like it would be an intellect focused area. However, this is also D&D, so we're also tying some martial arts and kind of East Asian mysticism into monastic orders because monks. Now, we can shift away from that for our RPG here. However, I'm just wondering if like maybe that well has been a little bit too poisoned, or that kind of idea pool is too firmly set in its ways there. So, I mean, when we think of monks, they are like the first thing we think of would be wisdom focused, I would think. Whereas, like, if we're talking actually historically, it would probably be more intellect. We could put this as a your choice. Yeah. I'm more than happy with putting this as a player choice here, because it's going to make this option a little bit more interesting. Nomadic tribe, that is going to be purely cultural. Going to be based on their experiences, traveling from place to place, interacting with others. This one I think would be probably charisma. Port City, 100% intellect. Just how many people you know, how many languages that you know that you can interact with others around. Seafaring consortiums, that's going to be pirates, that's going to be your navy, that's going to be your people who are frequently at sea. They're not going to know languages necessarily by cultural osmosis. That would kind of be a wisdom thing. They're not going to necessarily know more languages for the bombacity of self. So it's probably good. Yeah, it's just going to be intellect, since that is kind of our go-to there. Thieves Guild is going to be intellect as well. Artisans Guild. This reads wisdom to me. Island Nation, this is going to be this is going to be intellect. Order of Knights, 100% going to be intellect. City of Progress, definitely intellect. Haunted Woods. So this is going to this falls actually surprisingly close to a farming village here. In that it is, I think we're going to go with intellect. The Haunted Wood option here is mostly so that way we can have different suggested languages and have different options for like narrative development there. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and cue this off of intellect. People by the Sea, intellect. Sandswept Dunes, also intellect. Alright, so Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our languages, because I believe we have an idea of languages codified here. I think. So let's just go ahead and okay. Choose your background, so we're going to need to expand that for sure. That's going to give proficiencies with languages. Your language is known. So hang on. For one, we know we have common, which is going to be going to everybody, just so that all of your players have a language in common. Hence why it's called common. We do have Orcish. We have Draconic. Okay, so that's useful, but also not quite. Languages. Okay, so we do not actually have a codified list of languages. Good to know. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at like a D20 SRD here. So that way we can kind of begin some basic analogs for us here. So we're going to go to our 5e hypertext SRD here. Languages. Oh, no. It's going to give me every monster that has, because it has language abilities. Okay. So, basics, races, and description. That's probably going to do something there. There we go. Description. So we have language, we have standard languages, and exotic languages. Fitting that it is alongside alignment here, given that classic D&D would have alignment languages, so like Latin would be for a lawful good background if you consider lawful good to be Catholic, as I believe it was Gary Gygax who did. But nonetheless, languages. Alright, so let's just go ahead and make that bigger so we can get rid of as many ads showing as possible. I do have a pie hole running, so I guess I just don't have that specific domain blocked. Nonetheless, this should be fine to work with. So we have common, as in the common language that everything that works with. We can borrow Dwarvish. We can borrow Elvish, Giant, Gnomish, Goblin, Halfling. We have Orcish, Abyssal, Celestial. We have Draconic, Deep Speech, Infernal, Primordial, Sylvan, Undercommon. Then we do have the special languages of Thieves' Cant and Druidic. Those are options there as well. So that is a starting place for our languages. Thank you, SRDs. Actually, let's go ahead and just take a quick look through some of the other SRDs and things that are provided through the OGL here. So that is the 5E. Let's go ahead and take a quick look into the 3.5 SRD. Going to just search language since that brought up everything on the first 5E1. Hopefully they're using a similar style and phrasing for this SRD. Speak language, comprehend language, tongues, races. There we go. That should be good there. Class-related languages. Cleric got Abyssal, Celestial, and Infernal. Oh my gosh, these ads are... I'm glad it's not showing up on... Well, a little bit of it is, dang. Abyssal, Celestial, Infernal. We have Sylvan. We have Draconic as the Lingua Arcana. Automatic language, Common. Bonus, other than secret languages such as Druidics, you see language skill. Go ahead and open that in another tab there. Dwarves. Automatic language, Common and Dwarven. Dwarven or Dwarvish? Dwarven. Dwarvish. Alright, so Common and Dwarven. Giant, Gnome, Goblin, Orc, Terran, Undercommon. Alright, this is good. Okay, so we have Gnomish already. Do not have Giant. We have Goblin. We have Orcish. We have Terran. And then we have Undercommon there. So Terran, which was kind of built into as a dialect of Primordial for 5e. So that's why that doesn't immediately show up there. Elves, Common Elven, bonus languages Draconic, Gnoll, Gnome, Goblin, Orc, Sylvan. So all of that is common except for Gnoll. Once again, we're just kind of making notes here. We're going to be cutting this list back substantially. Gnomes. Common Gnome, Draconic, Dwarven, Elven, Giant, Goblin, Orc. And then they get the bonus ability of speaking with burrowing mammals, which is cool. Half-elves, Common and Elven, half-orcs, Common and Orc, halflings, Common and Halfling, yep. Alright. So that's our 3.5 SRD. And let's just jump into the Pathfinder 1E. Here. Probably going to be under races because that's where it's been the last several times. Common and Dwarven, Giant, Gnome, Goblin, Orc. Yep, this is looking like the same list here. Okay, so we can move past that part of the SRD here, but let's just take a quick look at our... Oh my gosh, excuse me. Speak language skill here. Abyssal Aquan. So that would be our elemental plane of water primordial. Orin, so that would be air. Celestial, Common, Draconic, Druidic, Dwarven, Elven, Giant, Gnome, Goblin, Gnoll, Halfling, Ignan. We have Infernal. Yep, that's already there. Orc, Sylvan, Terran. Yeah. Oh, no, we already put that on the list there. And Undercommon. There we go. So that is going to be kind of our baseline SRDs lists there. We do have Steel Compendium here. However, Draw Steel is unique in that it both does languages in a way that I very much like, but can't really borrow from. Here, let me see where that shows up. It would be cultures, I believe. Maybe not. Careers. Actually, you know, I'll just look up languages here. I mean, I wasn't really planning on using this here as primary reference, but once again, since we're talking languages, let's talk languages. Okay, why is this like trying to crash my computer? Oh, hey, there we go. It actually brought up the page. Cool, that just took a substantial amount of time and was pretty weird. So we're probably going to borrow a little bit of this text since it is fully open source here, because once again, the description of languages in Orden is fantastic. Languages granted by your hero's culture shape their understanding of the world and their relationship to the creatures within it. The following section details the languages of Orden, the baseline world of the game, but the director can use these languages in their own campaign world, or even swap this list with a list of their own, with their own list of languages. If your hero knows the language, they can speak, read, write, and understand it. So this is a little bit of history on the Kalian Empire. Dominated 5 of the 8 regions in Orden 3,000 years ago. Kalian tongue. Kalian effectively replaced their native language. And this is kind of... I've seen a lot of Matt videos here in which he describes Kalian as a sort of Latin, using the Kalian Empire as a Roman Empire analog. And so we have this area here on extant languages, which are languages still spoken today across the different regions of his world. So we have the Gol, who are the people who speak the language Uvalic. The people of Higara speak Higaran. The people of Ix speak Oxatl? Wakatl? I know I'm butchering that, so hopefully that is able to be understood there. Kamara speak Kamaric. Corsaric speaks Corsarian. The people of Phaedra speak Phaedran. Rioja speaks Riojan. Vanagar speaks Venaric. And Vasloria speaks Vaslorian. And so we have different languages here specified based on kind of what ancestries are used, what ancestries commonly use them, and then different notes about them. And this helps to bring this wide history to the world of Draw Steel, but at the same time, this is incredibly tied to Orden. So what I want to do is I want to create a blank template for my RPG here, where we use phrases like Common, Dwarven, Elven, and that those are the placeholder terms for the actual names of the languages in your campaign. So when we actually go to discuss languages later on in the RPG, in its in the Shattered Seas and the Prime Material Plane, and the discussions of the world that the characters are adventuring in within the confines of the book's narrative, they will have different language names, but that's just because, to use Drawsteel as an example, since it's right here, Kalian is the common tongue, so the common language gets you proficiency in the Kalian language, and so it's just going to be doing a little bit of an abstraction to just, this is the common language. This is a language that is primarily spoken by dwarves. This is the language primarily spoken by elves, etc., and down the list. So what else can we do here? Well, what we can do is let's go ahead and take a look at the ancestries we are going to support in the core rulebook. Just since, once again, we are using ancestries as a proxy here for we're using ancestries as a proxy and kind of accessible end to the actual hard-coded named languages of the world. So, like, once again, like, I speak English here right now, but since I'm in America, I would be kind of speaking, if we were abstracting it outward, it would be American Human. And so that is the standard language among American humans, ergo English. Whereas if I was in Spain, this primary language would be Spanish. So it's all just relating different cultures and different groups to it, which does get into a bit of the kind of butting of heads where, do all dwarves speak Dwarven? Of course not. But, like, in a community of dwarves, they have their own special language. And so I'm trying to do my best to kind of talk my way through this, because the goal is to not make it sound racist, even though there is kind of a precedent in the history of that within the game, as these people speak their own language and it's foreign to everyone else. The way I want to try and do this is I want to try and present it more as secret codes among different populations. And so primarily that would be a way to do that. But secret codes across a population is inherently related to land masses, is inherently related to continents, is inherently related to organizational structures that we cannot put into this game in such a way that people are supposed to be able to pick it up and run their own home setting using these rules. And so that's why I have kind of deferred to the 5e, the SRD, the Pathfinder version of using ancestry-based languages instead of something like alignment languages from earlier on, because alignment is something that is inherently diminished in these rules as primarily a role-playing aid. So yeah, that's a bit of the language spiel. No, I'm not particularly happy that we're stuck with ancestry languages, but we're tying it to different cultures here. We're trying to use them as proxies for actual named languages in different environments that we're going to be kind of talking about in the actual campaign setting portion of the book. Rambly, yes. Bit repetitive, yes. But I'm trying my best to be a good steward of the hobby and, take care of the people who want to read and run this book. So, lore here. Alder Elves. They would primarily be learning, realistically, like, Elven? They would primarily be learning the language of the earth, due to their kind of spiritual connection there. So the way that Alder Elves work is they combine themselves physically and spiritually with an aspect of the land, and so you would be speaking in the name of the volcano. So you'd be speaking for the volcano. You would be able to learn probably these different dialects of Primordial. We have Dhampir, which is going to be your vampires. They can learn anything, because they're old, ancient, and exist on every known continent. The ones that are primarily human would be Common, and probably some of the other area languages that are notable around, like the Viserion area of Trija, in campaign lore, but also would just kind of be more of the common languages. The ones from the Fel would probably be learning. What would be a language of the Fel? Let's go ahead and just kind of make a note here of Feltong. That's pretty reasonable to something to have there. Doppelgangers would 100% be using Sylvan and Elvish. Dwarves would have Dwarven. Elves would have Elven. Fauns have Sylvan. Goblins have Goblin, though that could also be easily translated into Orc, into Common, and into Halfling. Those ones are all kind of very similar and related to another. Golems would speak the language of their creator. Halflings, we have Halfling. Harpy would probably be Orin. Actually, maybe if we just keep Primordial its own thing, and then we have kind of Terran, Ignan, Orin, Aquan as their own separate tongues. That might work. Yeah, Primordial would be the tongue of the land. It would be the land, the land speaking through you, and you being a voice of it. So that would work for the Alder Elves. So a primordial force represented by nature. Okay. Human and demi-human. That's primarily where Common comes from, just because humans are kind of the easily accessible language of the world here. So like where people go, where humans go, the language is going to kind of reflect humans, and the game is all about kind of following humans, even though we have all of these casts of exotic and colorful characters. Jotun and Giantkin, so we have Giant on our list. Kindred. We could probably put Beast Speech. Oh, hang on. We have Speak with Animals. Kindred are simultaneously humanoid and either monstrosity or Sylvan. So we do have Sylvan already accounted for. Yeah, I don't think we're going to necessarily go into Beast Speech, because that is a spell with animal understanding. Orc and half-orc, we have Orcish. Revenant falls into the same category as Dhampir. We could have like a Death Tongue, but like, why would dying and being reborn give you new language skills? Why would that give you something special there? I don't know. Seraph, we have Celestial. Somnix, we do have Deep Speech. We're going to be renaming several of these. But yeah, this is our kind of psychic communication there. Tieflings, we have Infernal. Undyne, we have Aquan. Wormsfang, we have Draconic. What we also do need to make note of here is Wormsfangs get second speak. which we will kind of get into that, but that's them being able to speak twice simultaneously. It's a little bit funky, but it's a really circumstantial thing that gives a lot of flavor to an otherwise to an ancestry that is, on one hand, it's the dragon person, but like it needs a little bit more oomph to make it a little bit more unique. All right, so we have common, we have dwarven, elven. Do we want giants to have their own language? Okay, so hang on, let's... I know right now this is kind of formatted in a different way here. So common, primarily spoken among humans. Dwarven, primarily spoken among dwarves. Elven, primarily spoken by elves. Giant. I'm willing to get rid of giant here because we have something, because we have primordial on the list. So primordial, we have primarily spoken by giants, and this is the language of the natural world. And then we're going to do here specifically in relation to Alder elves. So yeah, we can get rid of giant there. Gnomish, gnomes aren't in this game. Sorry, gnome lovers. Goblins. So we could have kind of like a cavernous language here. We have goblins who are kind of higher cave settlers. We have orcs who are similarly cave settlers, but also kind of relegated to the plains after they have filled the kind of ground to terrestrial niche of the prime material plane, forcing humans, goblins, and halflings kind of off to their own environments. Goblin, sure, we can keep that. Halfling. I feel like halflings primarily exist in and around human settlements. So common primarily spoken among humans and halflings. Orcish, 100% getting moved forward here. Orcish, primarily spoken by orcs. Abyssal, 100% coming here, primarily spoken by demons. Celestial, yes. Primarily, you're not going to believe this, primarily spoken by Celestials. The high society language of the elemental plane of air. Draconic. Yeah. Draconic. Yeah, that's gonna have to stay. Primarily spoken by dragons. Deep speech. So what do we call this? I know when we were looking over on the Draw Steel Compendium there, they were calling it mind tongue or mind speech. Mind speech, that's the word. We could do something like that. We could call it deep tongue, which, I mean, it's an RPG. People would have fun with that. Deep speech. See, the thing is, when would deep speech not just be telepathic? When would a creature who can speak deep speech just not use telepathy? Wait, we have... Hang on. I have this language in my setting already. It's the far call. Yeah, this is... So anyway, deep speech. It is the far call. Primarily, learned by telepaths and those who connect with the far reaches of the Mar. So like that. So yeah, Ulithic would learn Far Call, and they would learn to master that as sort of psionics. Infernal. This is going to be our primary language of devils and the hells. Tieflings, devils, and the Sylvan. The old language of the Pharaoh. Primarily spoken by fauns. Undercommon. I don't like Undercommon in D&D. One, because it's one, because it's stealing the word common from the common language here. But also because it's meant to be one language that is spoken throughout, all of the Underdark. Which, okay, so it's the common language of the Underdark. But, like, are you telling me that, like, the goblins of the Underdark, the Drow, the Dwagar, the Mind Flayers, they all also know Undercommon? In addition to, being elves of the Underdark, being goblins of the Underdark, and being dwarves of the Underdark, and being Mind Flayers. So I'm just gonna kill Undercommon. Sorry. If you really are attached to that. Alright. Thieves can't here. Thieves can't. Yeah, no, this is absolutely a... Well, on one hand, it is a shorthand. Because, like, what is Thieves Can't? Dale Kingsmill has some fantastic videos about Thieves Can't and, like, hobo symbols, slang and shortened language symbology. Like, absolutely check out Dale Kingsmill's videos on the subject here on like what is Thieves' Cant. And that is absolutely something that should be existing in our world. However, I think picking up the language of a region might be relegated to like a streetwise check. So I think I'm going to take out Thieves' Cant here. And similarly, I'm going to get rid of Druidic because we have because we're using Primordial in its place now. So Primordial, it's spoken primarily by giants, but it's the language of the natural world. So this would also be something that druids would tie into. Yeah. We already dealt with giants. Terran. See, here's where a little bit of this kind of bumps up against my own need to continue developing the lore of the setting. I don't have a ton for the plane of elemental earth right now. And like a lot of my basic understandings here on what the plane of elemental earth is, I have to make sure that I'm like explicitly distinguishing it from the Fey realm, because there is a decent amount of overlap there. So we're gonna hold on to it for right now. The primary language of the plane of the elemental plane of Earth needs further development. Knoll here? No. Knolls are something that, you know, are going to exist within the monster book. But one, I don't have plans to have Knolls as a player character ancestry within the core rulebook for sure, and probably within the first couple expansions as well. Maybe we will get there later, but for right now, no. Aquan, I have been working a bit more on the elemental plane of water, but once again, that is still a bit of a way away. So I'm going to do a similar note here. That is the primary language of the elemental plane of water and needs further development. Orin, yes. We do have more about Orin here. So let's actually go up to Celestial here. Primarily spoken by the people of the elemental plane of air. And this is kind of the low society language. And that's going to tell you a lot about the lore of the elemental plane of air there, and that there are two languages, two primary cultures, where you have celestials and you have other people, where you have the wind traders, the people who are roving the skies of the elemental plane of air and making do with their own environments and their own cultures. I do quite like the land of Orin, the land of Gaeth Daish, the elemental plane of air there. I have developed. I feel pretty good about where that plane is as far as basic lore and how it's going to get fleshed out. Ignin, Land of Fire. The elemental plane of air and the hells, the elemental plane of fire and the plane of the hells are the exact same thing in my setting. Ignin dies in favor of infernal. Bell tongue, as we had spoken here. So Feldhung. This would be, language of Kuvok. As presented by the obelisk and spoken throughout agents of the Fel. Okay, so that brings us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and a half languages, technically. Actually, Second Speak isn't a language, it's a feature. So 16 languages. Noting that this will probably change a little bit here and there. Okay, so there 16 languages. So everyone is getting common because the one we the players are all human, so we all speak common. But throughout the worlds that your characters are going to be going to, I mean, you're primarily going to be speaking with like choosing what your common tongue is. So like maybe the common tongue for somewhere is Elven, but it's going to be different. We'll have sidebars for all of this. Okay. So these here are primarily Earth-focused cultures. However, if I consult my tome, we do have other cultures. Let me go ahead and just do that there. Oh, hang on. Why does that not match? Actually, no, that maybe shouldn't. Okay, that's fine. So, if we actually go over to a kind of more untouched section here of the interstitial drafting section here, we have some of our known analog worlds. And so these are different worlds that are going to be part of the core rulebook, that are going to be places that you can travel to within the core rulebook. So Manifold 1, that's going to be our prime material plane. So that's where the majority of our cultures are going to be taking place on. And so that's why we have most of our environments, that's why we have a lot of different organizations for people. However, Manifold 2, we don't know. We don't have a known analog world there. Manifold 3, we have Deavos. That is the Sylvan name for the world, sometimes called Arcadia, the Fey realm. Their sub manifolds, Equinox and Luminox. So yes. So we have cultures of Deavos. And so that we're going to have 3 of these in the core rulebook as well, so that you can play a character from the Feywild. Manifold 4, Manifold detected, no known analog world. Manifold 5, this is Oridon. This is the original Dwarven homeworld. We are not going to be having cultures and backgrounds from Oridon. That is something that I am feeling pretty set on. Oridon is going to be a place of lore. It is going to be a place where dwarves come from, because Oridon is functionally inhabitable. It is inhospitable to 96% of life, and the 4% that manage to eke out a living there do it primarily by luck. So dwarves coming to the prime material plane was primarily just lucky for them. Like this is how they survive. This is how their culture is able to move on. So having a culture from Oridon that is outside of strict survival necessity, like, player characters are not going to be coming from Oridon. Dwarves in the prime material plane have existed here for several generations, and so while there are going to be potentially rules where you can have a point of conjunction with Oridon, that's going to be something that is more adventure focused and saying, hey, this is a problem. This planet of hypercanes and swamp gas that fills the air made of neurotoxins. This plane of insane hot oceanic waters and volcanic swells, and like Oridon is like I would call Oridon mean and bad game design almost, if it weren't exclusively and explicitly based on the Permian mass extinction event that happened here on Earth. So, if you want to learn more about the Permian mass extinction event, there is an excellent video. It's one of my favorite videos on YouTube. I believe it's called The Deadliest Pattern in Nature, from the channel Gutsit Gibbon. Perhaps one of these days we're going to go and watch some of these videos on Twitch. I don't know. I'm not sure about the full legality of that, and I don't want to necessarily be a reaction-based YouTuber or Twitch streamer or any of that. But we might go to some of these areas and watch, build on different ideas presented in them and adapt them into our setting. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Oridon, learn about the Permian, because Jesus Christ, it's a mess. And so like a lot of my world building comes from that sort of, all right, so we have these different interesting periods in Earth's geological history. What sort of fantasy creatures and fantasy populations would survive in that environment? So Deavos is a lot based on the Devonian period. So you've got a lot of trees, you've got a lot of nature. Nature is is flourishing quickly and fast. And so that is taken a lot into the concept of the Eidolons that the Selenari placed around there that basically act as evolutionary catalysts. And so while the first race of the Selenari were the Fomorians, they eventually became inert. They were made of clay. And so the Eidolons thrummed, and that's where we get fauns, that's where we get kindred. We have these kind of beast folk who emerge from the lands, who stand up to become some of the next major sapient species of Deavos. And so what these Eidolons do is they are catalyzing, they are accelerating an evolutionary heritage to basically kind of kickstart the next generation of a plane or a planet outside of the creation of a celestial being like the Selenari. So yes, that's brief bit of lore there. But yeah, the Devonian period was one of mass growth by particularly land plants, and so the Devonian mass extinction was all about frigid anoxic seas causing massive deaths there because the powerful root systems that were created by trees and things like Archaeopteryx, the tree, not the bird dinosaur from millions of years later, flushed a lot of chemicals into waters that created eutrophication zones and dead zones that killed a lot of placoderms and fish and that just died, and then it kind of created this perpetuating cycle where the oceans became unable to support life because the oxygen was being consumed by all of these microorganisms. And so where most of our life was at that point of time was in the oceans, was in the seas, and so they died off. And so that was one of the leading causes of that mass extinction event. But that is a kind of proximate cause to other changes to the carbon silicate cycle. Once again, Gutsit Gibbon, Deadliest Pattern in Nature, one of my favorite videos on YouTube. You've got to check it out. It is absolutely fantastic as a way to kind of look at both the history of our world, our current trajectory as a species in the Anthropocene era, and just also to use as a world building resource, because these are environments that could exist because they did exist. And so now I get to take a look at them and then fill it with my fantasy bullshit. It's great. I love it. So where were we? Oh yeah, Oridon. Oridon does not get cultures because they're all about survival. It is a land that player characters are not supposed to come from. Oris and Gaeth Daish, the plane of elemental air. So yes, cultures of... I think we would probably stick with the colloquial of Oris. Hi there, Stormy Snow. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat here. Why did... There it goes. All right. I am just kind of nerding out here, talking about different cultures, talking about... recently I was actually just doing a bit of a ramble on history of the Earth and mass extinction events. And we're just kind of building backgrounds for my tabletop RPG Underkeeper, which is kind of a... I think the best way to describe it is it's a cousin of Draw Steel, and it's a descendant of 5e. But yeah, no, I'm here happy to answer questions, to talk about the design process, and hopefully spark inspiration and imagination in people watching and commenting, just so we can have this kind of shared community. Yeah, yep, that's the goal. But everything is going fantastic. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Cultures of Oris, yes. We are also going to be having cultures of the elemental plane of Earth, so that would be Terraneus, as I have noted here, as Manifold 10. Once again, we know that Manifold 9 exists. We don't have a specific analog world for it. Cultures of Terraneus. Go. Then Manifold 11, immediately after that we have Ionok, which is our plane of elemental water. Manifold 13, we don't have a specific name for it yet, but this is going to be our elemental plane of fire. This is going to be our this is going to be our analog for the hells. So we have Oris, which has our celestials covered, and then right now I have sometimes called Ignis or Infernus, but this is going to be our elemental plane of fire. This is our hells. So this is where we're going to get a lot of our demons. Not our demons. Our demons come from the abyss. This is where we're going to get a lot of our devils and fiends. This is the kind of home world for tieflings. So yeah, that is going to be cultures of the elemental plane of fire. Here we go. And then we do have the submanifold of 13.2, which is the abyss. And I don't have a ton here in that. I do have lore, but as far as our write-up goes for like the actual setting and description of the planes and manifolds within the Shattered Seas setting, a lot of the lore of the abyss is going to be left kind of to be ephemeral and mysterious, in that scholars and cosmologists are not sure whether or not the abyss is a bridge manifold between the plane of elemental fire and an unknown realm from whence demons come. Like, on one hand, that gives me a bit of room to create a plane of primordial chaos if I so choose. I could instead have that be a plane where something like, if we're looking at D&D 5e terms, something like Dweeblex has taken over an entire manifold, where this ooze has kind of crept across all of the different known realms. If you're thinking of, maybe want to think of this in pop culture terms, a good analog for this might be the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where you have Ego detonating and having these seeds open up on different planets, and they all slowly grow to become one with him. So like, if he won, maybe that is going to be an aspect of our plane of primordial chaos, which is the bridge manifold between the plane of elemental fire, and that is the abyss, and that's where demons come from. I don't know. A lot of that is really niche, unidentifiable things, and it is not something that is necessarily going to be finalized. Most of what the abyss is going to just be what I have written here that we just don't know. But like, if you like that idea, feel free to steal it for your home campaign. Then we have known bridge manifolds. We have the Maria Astra, the Shattered Seas, the Sea of Stars. This is the bridge manifold. It serves a similar role as the ethereal plane, and so this is our space analog. So when we have ships that will pass between worlds in a very Treasure Planet-esque manner, they're going to be jumping through what's the word for it? It's not primal. It's probably conjuncted flumes of sea foam and offlets from the Maria Astra, and that basically allows them to flip over from one reality into this bridge manifold, and then they can navigate the different star patterns across the different skies and seas here in order to find analog spaces with other realms, and then kind of flip back over onto another world. And so this Shattered Sea, the Sea of Stars, exists after the fracturing of Manifold Zero, which created these large conjunctions and these rivers of rivers of primordial chaos, this sea of stars. It is literally a reflection of all the different stars of the night sky in all of the different realms. And so if you can map and pattern what stars you recognize from your reality and from others, you can kind of use this space to flip yourself from one reality to another and kind of traverse it that way. But since it is also on the edge and the fringe of the known universes, it is used by teleporting mages to create teleported flumes across different areas, so they can bounce onto the Maria Astra, create a door to another area on their plane, and get there faster than simply travel. So that is how teleportation magic works in this setting. Ooh, that was a lot there, but let me go ahead, and that's just me saying that there are going to be cultures from the Maria Astra here. Cultures of the Maria Astra. There we go. And so, like, if you're familiar with 5e lore, we have the idea of the far realm, where like mind flayers come from, and it's this land of crazy Cronenbergian flesh monsters and abominations and what's the word for it? Aberrations. And so that's where you get things like dream monsters, where you get mind flayers, where it's this sort of end of civilization sort of stuff, if they could, permeate and traverse the Sea of Stars. And so that is going to be paralleled here, where you will have dreadnoughts of the Ulathic Empire patrolling the Sea of Stars, and that's where we also have our variation of the Gith, the Saren Zoker, who ride abyssal phoenixes and fight back against that in this very Manichean good versus evil fight against cosmic horror. So yeah, fun stuff. So let's see here. Maria Astra absolutely is going to be getting some cultures as options for creating backgrounds. I'm tempted to put in the Underkeep as my analog to the Underdark. It is also, the name of the game. So, like, probably. So yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of temporarily pencil that in here. Cultures of the Underkeep. Known worlds on other manifolds, so that's where we're going to have our Mechanist analog. We know that it's on manifold 7, but we don't know where necessarily the Axions fully come from. It's harder for us to navigate the Sea of Stars to find Axiom, or I'm using Axiom as the term from Orden and the Timescape in Draw Steel, just because one, that term is open, and two, I found that it works very well for this sort of axiomatic culture of uttermost law that has fully mechanized itself. And so that is once again, it is the relation to an idea of mechanist. So Axiom is somewhere on manifold 7, but we've mostly learned about it through beings from there crossing the Sea of Stars into our realms and either getting trapped here or leaving and going somewhere else. So mostly, like, they just kind of blip in, blip out. We're not necessarily going to have any player character options that specifically come from Axiom, though we know it exists. Vesper being manifold 0, Vesper is a world that has completely been destroyed. It is what caused the Prime Conjunction events that created the Maria Astra and broke the veil between all of these different realms. Our primary understanding and travel beyond our core plane, the Prime Material Plane, through the Maria Astra is because of analog worlds. And so these are worlds that are in similar points in space and time that we can just kind of quickly flip in and flip out of. It's the equivalent of a plane shift spell through the Mar. Then we have a Sigil analog that's just going to be on the Maria Astra. So that's going to be, if you're familiar with plane shift lore, City of Doors, City of Gates, City of Bridges, this one world where you can find different maps through the Sea of Stars in order to bring yourself to areas where you can enter and exit into different worlds. This is going to be like a big city of star maps, a Celestarium, if you will. So yes. So if I actually go ahead and consult my notes and lore here, I hope that long kind of diatribe and discussion doesn't scare people off with all of the proper nouns and stuff and just kind of like cosmic ramblings. Hang on, let me go ahead and kind of check messages and chats. Cool. Yep, all is good. Sweet. So yeah, the cultures that I have written up here, I haven't gotten all of them for this setting. So we've got cultures of Deavos. So if you want to have a character who is from the canonical Fey Wild of this setting, they can be from ... the Fey Wilds. Mostly as a way to just kind of incorporate that phrase into the game, but nevertheless, the gist comes across that you are from another world, one of growth and population by flora and fauna of more elongated and eccentric reflections of a humanoid population. These are the people of Deavos. So cultures of Deavos, you can be from the Fey Wilds. These are going to, once again, it's the plains. It's the kind of common folk of this land. You can be from a Fey court or hollow. So these are going to be more of your organized areas here. Hollow. And then what was my third one here? Okay. Actually, I should have an option here. Because my third one here says just kind of the land the ancients roamed, which is, on one hand, it is evocative, but I don't necessarily think that it is that actionable. Especially in the sense that it is tied to... One, all of these are tied to my world lore, but like... if you have cultures on other lands that have deep and intricate histories, you're going to have ancient civilizations across all of them. And so if you want to have a player who is from the land where the ancients roamed on Oris or Terraneus or Ionok or the Hells, like, what is going to necessarily separate that from the fact that this written cultural background is inherently tied to the Fey realm? And so I think that is kind of bad design in that it is so general it should be accessible to everyone, but at the same time, by opening it up to everyone, it loses its specificity. And so, like, what would even be the heritage feature that would be associated with that? It would probably be something scholarly. You have something to understand about Fomorians, giants. You might be able to learn a little bit more about the Selenari. You might be able to learn a little bit about celestial influence on Deavos and in the Feywild. You might be a little bit more predisposed into learning what happened to the moon there. But like, as that feels more like me forcing my lore onto players instead of giving them templates that they can adapt from into their own campaign setting. So, since Deavos is kind of a land of light and shadows, we probably should, instead of using the land the ancients roamed, create an option here if you want to be from the Fell. So, what would that be? From the Twilight Realm, the Twilight Imperium, the Twilight End, from the Days of Grey, from the Ashbourne Valleys, from a land of ash and veins of time. That's evocative. It's cool. Once again, it's still a little bit, expressly tied to the setting. I figure when we do like a little bit more expansion stuff into different realms here, we can get a lot more with Equinox and Luminox, or the Shattered Remains of Luminox, that is. Okay, the Feywilds. The Fell Storms. The Fell Ashlands. The Fell... The Unseelie Courts. No, that is a Fey court or hollow that would already be covered in cultures of Deavos here. So I mean, Fell Waste is standard, it is simple. Let's see, what is a land of ash and broken time? Yeah, that's evocative enough, but it's also general enough that you can understand that it's from a Shadowfell, a land of ash and broken time. Okay. That would also then move this section here to before this one here, so organizing alphabetically. There we go. So those will be kind of our baseline cultures of Deavos. Then we have written up here Oris. So we have from the Wind Traders Caravans, from a Celestial Sanctum, and from the Smokelands. I think these are perfectly fine. I don't think we need to necessarily do a ton to further identify those that isn't going to be done with narrative and lore writing within. So, a Celestial Sanctum. From the... So Smokelands is going to come alphabetically before Wind Traders Caravans. Smokelands. The Wind Traders Caravans. Cultures of Terraneus, I do not have that yet. I still need to do a lot more work on that plane, as I said before. Same with Ionok. I've been doing a bunch of research and kind of work on the Undyne, which is kind of the primary species of Ionok and the plane of elemental water. Sort of things here, considering different name changes, considering different cities and social structures there. Mostly because, and the thing is that the reason I haven't kind of pulled that up as something to talk about on stream is because I've found it kind of flat and boring, just because I'm looking for kind of evocative words of like people of the water and such, and I've gone through so many different cultures' histories looking for proper words and nouns that feel both fantastical in a way that would work for these different worlds, and would fit my idea of this culture as it stands. And I have yet to hit upon something that is similarly flavorful, similarly evocative, but also unique. Like I want this to be specifically very unique to this setting. And so Undyne is kind of the word that my girlfriend had offered and kind of kicked up to me as an option for what the kind of the merfolk people in the setting would be like, because we were going through all of the different ancestry options that I want to support at core book launch. And we did not have in 5e terms, a triton, a creature or a player species that has a substantial bonus to living in and on and around the water. And so, we were talking through that, and Undyne came up, and I'm like, sure, yeah, we definitely want to fill this archetype, and that's just kind of where it's been for the past while. Once again, I am rambling here, so let's go back to Cultures of Ignis here. So we have an adjective noun from the cities of hell, from the infernal wastes, and from the abyssal borderlands. So these are all the phrases here. So abyssal comes first. Then we have infernal wastes and cities of hell. So cities of hell is going to come next. Cities of hell. And then the infernal wastes. Okay, and then cultures of the Maria Astra. So I was considering, I had 4 written down here, but yeah. Oh, I am indeed reading chats. Hi there, Cloudy Cubs. I hope you're doing well. I am indeed reading chats. I've got it pulled up over here on the side. Or your headset isn't working. Is my microphone transmitting? It sure looks like it is. Okay. First thing, go see your logo, profile picture. Okay. I'm curious what you're going and saying here, but please, yeah, I want to show you some of your work. Okay. Do you have a link that you can post there or something? Because I'd be happy to kind of look into and maybe just kind of see some stuff. Do you have some of your logo design on your Instagram there, just so I can kind of preview it before kind of reaching out for it? Yeah. Okay. Hang on a second. This I will have to kind of look into this a bit more here. Let's see here. All right, but thank you for jumping into the stream here and passing your information along there. I'd be happy to. 9Kingy4 asks, what are you building? I am currently working on a tabletop role-playing game called Underkeeper. It is a What I kind of describe it as a cousin to Draw Steel by MCDM. It is also a descendant from D&D 5th edition and 5.5e, as put out by Wizards of the Coast. And so, like, originally I had been kind of working on building out weapons modifications in my own campaign setting. And then, 2023 happened and we had the whole OGL debacle. And so I started kind of building out what would be the bones of a new tabletop RPG system that I am working on here. And so right now I'm just kind of doing a lot of lore discussion, and we're building out backgrounds for it. So yeah, that would be... so right now, backgrounds are built out of 3 different features, being your characteristic, your position, and your culture. And so this reflects a lot of what is shown in the Cypher system by Monty Cook Gaming, in that you have a character sentence where you are an adjective noun who does something. And so in my game, you're an adjective noun from a location. And so we can use all of these different features to give different skill proficiencies, to show different approaches to your character creation and character decision processes. We can use your position to show different elements of your character's lore, and who they were before they became an adventurer. And then we can use your culture here to give different features as to where your character comes from, different languages, and kind of different environments from where they grew up. So that is kind of the brief overview of what I've been working on here. Most of this is coming in the form of just editing this spreadsheet here with all of my data, so that way I can take that information and then kind of begin to adapt it into plain text for my core rulebooks here, which are several hundreds of pages long. Here, yep. So like I've got classes being built up on this one here. I've got this is a bad list because it's just right now the list. Let's see, where do I go here? I've got... Yeah, I'll just jump to the skills table here. So these here are all of the different character skills and kind of brief descriptions about them. And so we're just working on tying that into giving proficiencies to player characters at this time. So right. Cultures of the Maria Astra. This is the Sea of Stars. This is the kind of titular shattered seas of the campaign setting, what it is known for and named after. So I had an idea for up to 4 different four different kind of cultures that your player character can come from if you're choosing to have them come from the Sea of Stars, which is kind of already a bit of an alien origin. And so that would be either from this, as I was talking about with Planescape as an analog here, we have the city of Sigil, we have the city of Doors, where it is this massive Celestarium where you can find all of these different star maps that will help get you between the different analog worlds of the setting. And so you can kind of phase in and out of the Sea of Stars as this bridge manifold. Sorry. Brain is working a bit too fast for the mouth. And so this large cosmopolitan city of forgotten dreamscapes, of forgotten worlds and lands that have been either lost to time or banished outwards from different points in each of these different worlds' histories. So I've talked a lot about the history of Deavos, which is my version of the Feywild, and so how they have different connections to a group of celestial beings called the Selenari, and how they liberated themselves in that regard was they banished their home manifold. And so that is out there somewhere on the Maria Astra, and it is something that you can encounter in this world. And so I'm doing a lot of setup of kind of loose threads that can be answered in different campaigns, different adventures within this campaign setting. And so, yeah. And so this city of doors, bridges, or gates, this sigil analog where all fantasy archetypes and character concepts and ancestries exist here in one form or another as they're transitively passing between different realms. That is definitely one culture I would like to support within the background system of this game. So you are from ... the city of this. Right now I just have it as the city of doors or gates, or it needs a bit more tune up as far as professional and like fantastical language here. City of doors, gates, bridges, etc. Sigil analog. Similarly, on as far as cultures on the Maria Astra, where your player characters can come from, is they can come from what I specifically noted here as an Ulithic hive. The Ulithic being my version and setting neutral variation of the Illithids in 5e lore and Mind Flayers colloquially. So I'm going to actually adapt this a little bit further as just a hive of the far realms, of the far reaches. Far reaches, that's it. A hive of the far reaches. Once again, language here is subject to change. A lot of these specific campaign setting cultures are going to be are basically first draft, and so we're going to be expanding and identifying lore for them more going forwards. We're just kind of putting it on paper right now, first and foremost. And then simply also, sometimes people just like there are different cultures that grow up in these different worlds and these different manifolds. And so it's completely realistic that there are civilizations of people who have grown, developed culture, grown crops, and like developed systems of life, of nature within this realm of Forgotten World. And so just a blanket, the land's forgotten, is an evocative cultural component to a backstory that you can have here. Okay, so we have an A clause, we have a the clause, and we have a the C clause. So we're going to go ahead and put the C there, and then we're going to put the A on there so that way it is organized alphabetically. Yee. All right. So that is kind of what I have pre-written in my journal here, from when I've been working kind of in and out and around work, as far as different cultures goes. So I still have Terraneus, Ionok, the Underkeep itself, as places that I want to fully expand upon. Yeah. So for one, we're going to go ahead and just kind of note that common is going to be a common language on all of them, just because game mechanics wise, I need common to exist on all planes, and so that way each of the players can have these languages that are shared among them. Once again, I have had a bit of a diatribe earlier on where I am not outwardly ecstatic about having ancestry-bound languages, and I'm trying to alleviate that a little bit by tying them to different cultures here. But it is functionally the best way to go forward without forcing the wider audience of this game to play exclusively in my campaign setting. I want my campaign setting's inclusion here to be, hey, these are cool ideas. I want to adapt and steal ideas from that into my own campaign setting. And so that's what their inclusion here is meant to evoke and to be. And so, in order to do that, roll back the clips. We have there is a diatribe. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, because I think I was talking randomly and loosely, rambling for about like 20 minutes or so. Cool. Okay, so cultures of Deavos, Fey, Court, or Hollow. This is all primarily going to be wisdom and charisma based, as it's the Feywild. So a Fey, Court, or Hollow, that is going to be one of the more political structures here. So it's going to be charisma oriented. The Land of Ash and Broken Time is going to be wisdom based. And then the Feywild in general, I think it's probably going to be wisdom. The cultures of Oris, a celestial sanctum that is coded for charisma. The Smokelands is going to be intellect. Wind Trader Caravans is... It could honestly go either way, intellect or wisdom. I'm going to have it queue off of wisdom. We don't know enough about Terraneus or Ionok to put those in there. Cultures of the elemental plane of fire. So the Abyssal Borderlands. The Abyss is a realm of chaos. Chaos naturally has high charisma, as it has high presence in both mindsets and ideas for the setting and for the people who are in it. So Abyssal Borderlands, fiends who are corrupted by the Abyss, this is going to be charisma focused. The Cities of Hell. Honestly, I think that this might just be a charisma sweep here. Well, Hell also can be tied a lot to bureaucracy. With kind of these different powerful cities all vying in this sort of great game of politics with one another to eventually have a Devil Lord of the Hells. Could we incorporate that into the language ability score? I don't know, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right angle to go at this from. So, the Cities of Hell is probably going to be intellect based. Just because it's going to be tethered to traveling the worlds and seeing and interacting with other people, and so it's going to be all learning focused. So yeah, intellect based. The Infernal Wastes. This is going to be a little bit more communal cultural osmosis sort of things, where we have things like the Danelaw in language history and kind of the history of English. So this is going to be something where Different communities have different cultural languages, different cultural shibboleths, and so this is going to be a bit more wisdom focused. Hive of the Far Reaches is wait. There's a part of me that wants to say that is charisma as fuck, but Hive of the Far Reaches, just because they have an immense physical and kind of psionic presence to the fundamental nature of reality, to the far call, to the language of psionography and cognizance. Just because that is a highly charismatic presence doesn't mean it's not inherently psionic. And inherently psionic things, you're going to be passing the language through intellect. So this is going to go for intellect. City of Doors, Gates, and Bridges. This is going to be, once again, it's going to fall into that sort of cultural osmosis thing where you have different shibboleths and different cultures interacting with each other primarily. So on one hand, that would be an argument for wisdom. However, the presence of this sigil analog is charismatic. It is going to be all about worlds and colorful characters who pass in and on, around and beyond and by each other. And so this charismatic dance of identity and understanding of different human conditions and connections is going to be more bridged based on social constructions rather than language itself. And so therefore I'm going to tie it to charisma. The Land's Forgotten. This is going to be intellect. Alright, Cultures of the Underkeep. We don't have those set up yet. Whew. How is everybody doing who is still sticking around here? Right, alright. Chat is not fully moving. That's perfectly fine. Alright. Time right now where I am is 3:36. How long have I been streaming for already? Just because I'm just trying to make sure I have time to take care of the things I need to for kind of the rest of the day today. Alright. I think we're good to go for a little bit longer here. So let's go ahead and start kind of working through some suggested languages here for selection. So the way that these cultures are going to work is you're going to learn a number of languages equal to your blank modifier here, and that's going to be the ability score it is tied to. That's what we were coming up with there. So it is typically going to be intellect, just as far as intellect being kind of the polyglot skill, just kind of naturally getting you more languages. You're going to get a core language, of which one is basically always going to be common. So perhaps you only know one language in this manner. So it's going to be intellect modifier, or wisdom modifier, or charisma modifier, minimum of one, of which one language has to be common. Or, I mean, does it have to be? Does it have to be? Of which one language is strongly recommended to be common. And then it's going to list some other suggested languages based on the culture that you are coming from. So I have worked out previously here some of the different languages that I want to support within the game here. So that would be Common, Dwarven, Elven, Goblin, Orcish, Abyssal, Celestial, Draconic, the Far Call, Infernal, Primordial, Sylvan, Terran, Aquan, Celestial, and Feldhall. Yeah. So yeah, that is that here. So yeah, we want to pair these up. So if a band of entertainers is primarily going to be going around the prime material plane, and of that, common is going to be probably the most common language, followed probably by Elven and Dwarven. Actually, Goblin and Orcish would probably be in that category as well. Would a band of entertainers necessarily be entreating goblins and orcs in the kind of the kind of lands of the barbarians who are in between different settings and civilizations of the prime material plane? I don't know. It's going to kind of depend on your character's backstory. It's going to kind of depend on what your characters are doing. Here. Okay. So. You know, I kind of think it might be beneficial for me to go and kind of continue working on some of these different lands and cultures and areas in between. And so I think I'm going to jump off for right now to go ahead and kind of continue working on that, and to also run to the grocery store because I'm making enchiladas and such tonight for dinner. I want to make sure I can get that taken care of. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think I'm going to be seeing you next, probably tomorrow. I hope you guys take care. Bye.